This is the second video on how the Hemingway mystique is tied to Ernest Hemingway's experiences in Spain. By Hemingway mystique, I mean his ideal of dignified manhood, what he aspired to as a man. It's a kind of, I would say, form of the British stiff upper lip, but without the stuffiness and with style, without a stick up its ass, let's say. I am going to finish this video talking about a story called The Clean, Well-Lighted Place, which I think is very, very moving, and I think exemplifies the mystique I'm talking about outside the arena of, let's say, bullfighting. Hemingway was a journalist, a working journalist in Spain during the Spanish Civil War, which took place between 1936 and 1939. He was on the loyalist side, let's say, the Republican side, the side of the Republic. Spain was invaded by the nationalists or the fascists led by Francisco Franco, who eventually won the war. So the side that Hemingway supported, also the side that George Orwell supported, also the side that most of, let's say, the democratic world supported, lost. Hemingway wrote a book called For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is about that conflict. The main character is a guy named Robert Jordan, who is a university professor of Spain who comes to fight for the loyalist cause, because he's also a demolitionist, an expert in dynamite. So he comes to Spain and he gets sort of caught up in this group of guerrillas who are living in the mountains between Segovia and Madrid. And he falls in love with this woman named Maria. A lot of people make fun of the book, For Whom the Bell Tolls, because of the kind of maudlin love story. I guess that's kind of true. You know, the sex scenes are kind of, maybe looked at now, might be considered a bit over the top and bad. And maybe Maria comes off as like a very brave child. You know, all the labels that are put on Hemingway now, racist, anti-Semitic, woman hater, maybe they're partially true. I'm not gonna defend him on those points, but I will defend him as an artist. He's an artist despite all of those things, and a very, very readable artist. And For Whom the Bell Tolls is a tremendous piece of entertainment. Again, he wrote the book, I think, in 1940, all right? It's not, I don't think, his best book. It's not his best book. Like I said, there are points that are sentimental, okay, but there are also scenes in the book that are unbelievable, okay? It's one of the few books that has ever reduced me to tears at the end, again, with that love story, okay, which many people consider maudlin. I wept when I read it, wept. But the scene that is most memorable in that book takes place, and it's interesting what Hemingway does, because it's told from the perspective of Pilar, who is the matriarch of this group of guerrillas living in the mountains, fighting for the loyalist cause. Okay? Pilar talks about how she got caught up in the war, and how basically how her town lived it. Okay? And it's an unbelievable scene, and is apparently based on a real event that took place in Ronda, which is a town in Andalusia in the province of Malaga. It's a very dramatic place because it's got what's called the Tajo of Ronda, which is this 390-foot canyon that drops from the edge of this town. Okay, and in this, apparently what happened was 500 nationalists were killed, 500 fascists were killed. So Hemingway is writing this book and supports the loyalist side, but writes about a scene of barbaric behavior, all right, from the side that he supports. So, you know, kudos for Hemingway to showing that both sides were horrific in their treatment of the other side, okay? And the scene in the book takes place where they kind of lock in the courthouse, which is on the edge of this Tahoe, this canyon. Maybe it's the Ayuntamiento, the city hall, which is now the Parador of Ronda, which is so recommendable. If you go to Spain, you've got to see Ronda, okay? So this Parador, which is basically a state-owned hotel, all right, looks out over this canyon, all right? But it was once the city hall. So they locked these 500 people in the city hall and killed them, shot them, and pushed them over the edge, all right? Dropping 390 feet into this riverbed. Hemingway writes it unbelievably well, right? All these people coming in from the countryside in their Sunday best to watch this slaughter of the enemy side, right? There's a scene where this guy, as I recall, on the loyalist side, this peasant asks his captors how to shoot a gun so he can kill them. And then the way it turns barbaric, all these petty resentments rise up, and they take out these petty resentments on these captors, killing them brutally and throwing them over the sides. It becomes just barbary. As I said in the first book, the first video on Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises is a seamless book. I think his best work. For basically 10 years, Hemingway could do no wrong, whether it was with novels or short stories, and then he became kind of spotty, less consistent. But when he hit it, man, he hit it hard. And that scene in For Whom the Bell Tolls is unbelievably good. Unbelievably good. And again, it describes sort of the dignified Spanish peasant or worker in the countryside. I mean, Hemingway kind of put whether it was the Spanish peasant or the French peasant on a pedestal of authenticity. All right? And the manhood was very often exemplified by these people. Many bullfighters at one time came from this strain of Spanish manhood. Now it's not the case. They all come from rich families in the countryside. But it was the case once. And one Belmonte, who I also mentioned in the first video on Hemingway, was also of this kind of working class countryside Spanish man. Tremendously recommendable as a piece of entertainment, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and also as a piece of literature. But I want to finish this video with a short story, A Clean, Well-Lighted Place, which Hemingway wrote in 1933. And again, it's about this mystique, but almost in a more moving way, because it's a very short story. I'll put the link of it below. It's about this old man fighting off despair, who drinks in this cafe in this Spanish town. And he drinks with dignity because it's a well-lighted, clean cafe. He sits under the trees. There's no music. He can drink with dignity. He can drink a lot with dignity. He's described as clean, okay, who never spills when he drinks, okay? And these two waiters are sort of like, one is complaining about this man, and the other is kind of relating to this man. Okay? The waiter complains, a family of his own, wants to shut the bar already and go home and be with his family. And he's complaining about this man who continues drinking cognac after cognac. Finally, he tells him to leave. Okay, and he's described as kind of walking off unsteadily and with dignity. There's this rumor that he tried to commit suicide, but he was saved by his daughter. Okay? So he's fighting. Okay? He's fighting with dignity against this demon of despair. When life no longer seems to matter for him. Okay? But he wants to at least drink with dignity. So this waiter who then after the bar closes goes to find a bar where he can then drink with dignity and fears going home, fears this demon of despair, okay? You know, which is ultimately the demon that Hemingway succumbed to, right? At 61 years old, so the guy was basically only 6 years older than I am. Shot himself, blew his head off, okay? Because he felt like life no longer mattered, or that he no longer had worth as a man or as a writer. There's a lot of talk and rumors about why he did it, but thinking about how he ended up, you know, in 1961, he wrote this story in 1933. It's very, very moving that he kind of foresaw his end, that he would have to fight with dignity against despair. Perhaps he lost that battle. Okay? Or perhaps he didn't. Who really knows, you know? Who are we to really claim that suicide is about cowardice? It's possible that it could also be about courage, okay? Which I kind of referred to a little bit in the first video. Anyway, I would certainly recommend that you read A Clean, Well-Lighted Place. Also, there's that great scene where one of the waiters is talking about the Lord's Prayer in this kind of nihilist way, where I think the line is, our nada, who art nada, nada be thy name, all right? Nada is nothing, okay? So he rewrites the entire prayer with the word nada, or nothing, in it. This idea of despair, like creeping in to even like take ownership of our prayers. A tremendously moving piece of literature. Also takes place in Spain, takes place in the cafe culture of Spain. Anyway, done on Hemingway. Certainly an essential part of books about Spain, and the best books on Spain. See you next time, people.